Welcome to another edition of African Americans Ain't African, the talk show that proves without a shadow of a doubt that the so-called African American didn't find his way to America in the trunk of the ship. In the trunk of a ship. I'm your host, the Indigenous One. And tonight we're going to talk about getting your kids. And a kid can be somebody that's 5 years old to 75 years old. And we're having this program. Phoenix Moon is going to join me in a few minutes. So be ready for that because you know how that sisters come. And what we've been trying to do, or what I've been trying to do, you know, I realize that many of us, we don't know. We're not taught anything. So the information that we put out is kind of new to people, and being that they've been told, one story and they've been believing that their whole life, even though they can't even prove it, even though we've been living a lie our whole lives. When somebody comes and debunks that lie, we have an attitude. Not we, but many people have an attitude. And there's some things that have been going on in the African American community that has just been embarrassing. We look stupid doing it. And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about how you have all these people upon hearing African Americans ain't African, they go into a tizzy because Massa told them that we was Africans. But you have to remember that African Americans, they don't look at the world through their eyes. They look at the world through their master's eyes. It's very important to understand that. And that's where you get a lot of these people talking crazy because most of the stuff they've never heard before. So I'm just going to tell you something that I learned from a sister, and she hit it on the nail. She hit the head on the nail perfectly. She said, when you're using that term African American, use it for yourself. Not everybody's into that story. We get people joining a group every day, and we simply say, this is all I say. Ask your people. I don't know many of you. So all I can say is ask your grandmother. What grandmother lies to their kids? What grandmother lies to her grandchildren? She's going to tell you. And if you think, and this is where else the African American loses. We never think for ourselves. We always eat it out of somebody else's mouth and trying to spit that shit on everybody else. It don't work. How you can tell that Africans Americans ain't African? Just ask yourself. A baby. I mean, we have kids that are in the sixth and seventh grade. They can figure it out. And I'm starting to see the older we get, the harder it is for us to let go of some of these stories that we believe in, which means we're still in a childlike trance at 75, 80, 90 years old. So, one of the ways you can tell African Americans ain't Africans is ask yourself simple questions like, how come African Americans weren't called African Americans when they were called Black Panthers? How come African Americans wasn't called African Americans when you were called colored? These are simple questions. And, a lot of people may think that I'm hard on people. I'm not. I'm not, but damn, y'all. You see what's happening to us on a daily basis? You see what's happening to us? What all these foreigners are just dogging us out. And you won't stop and think about what's going on with us for 5 minutes, and you can see how with all this world star hip hop and all this junk that we get, you can see how we act. And this just isn't the youth. This is many of the adults who are teaching the youth. Here's a perfect example. There's a video going around where this little girl is introduced to a dial phone. A dial phone like was used in 74, 75. You remember those phones, for those of you old enough to remember. So this little girl, she's about 15. She's introduced to the phone, and she's like, "What's this?" And she doesn't know. You can tell that she doesn't know. And her grandmother doesn't teach her, say, "Hey, this was the phone we used to use back in the day. You dial the number, same way you push the phone now. You dial the number and the phone will work." But the girl wasn't getting it because the grandmother didn't teach her. It would have took the grandmother less than a minute. This is how long it takes to learn anything. If you teach a kid something, they gonna get it and they gonna play with it. But in the African American community, we don't do that. We just expect the kid to know something, even though she's never been taught it. And that's where we lose because we don't pass information, vital information on to the kids. And what that does is, and this is where we get screwed. So let's take today for an example. Your kid asks you something on June 12th, 2018. You don't teach them, or you teach them what you know. About time they get your age 50 years later, they still know the same dumb shit you taught them today, which means as the world to move forward, we're still 50 years behind. That's where we're at today. We don't have no abstract thinking. We don't think forward. We only think what we've been taught, or we only do what we've been taught. That's your politicians, that's your preachers, that's your teachers, that's everybody. We are a nation of people that's supposed to be looking out for our benefit, but we don't do that. We look out for everybody else's benefit. And you can tell by the way we support other people that come over here. And then you have these ignorant Negroes. Well, what we supposed to buy? Fool, you supposed to go ahead and get your land and start producing from your land. We should be doing that in mass. But we comfortable with our jobs. We're comfortable with what's given us, and you're seeing what's happening to us. So, that's a little insight into what we're going to be talking about tonight, because we have a lot of us, a lot of so-called African Americans, a lot of so-called African Americans. They don't even, they're not even connected. They're not even part of the planet. They're not even part of nature. They don't even know what nature is. Why? Because the African American was created not by the people who call themselves African Americans. They were created by foreigners. Why were they created by foreigners? And this is you don't have to research this. You don't have to look it up. All you have to do is simply rub those two lobes of your brain together and think about it, and you'll see what's happening. Why are you called African American now instead of Black? Why are you called African American now instead of Negro? Many of us have Negro on our birth certificate. Why are you called African American instead of colored? And why weren't you called African American back then? I'm going to simply tell you why. It's so you can be disconnected from the previous generation. So I have uncles that are 90 years old. They laugh when I say the term African American. That wasn't used when they were kids in the 20s and 30s. They weren't called African Americans then. So by the time they got to be young adults, it was maybe they were called colored then. By the time they got older in their 20s, it had changed to Negro. By the time the people were born in the late 50s, 40s, it had changed to Black. I'm sorry. It changed Negro. I think Negro was used in the 50s, 60s. Why was that? Why was Negro used away from color? To disconnect the Negro people from everything that the colored people would do. So the kids are brought up in Negro. They looking at color all funny. Move that forward, the people who were called Negro, they stopped using Negro. And you remember Muhammad Ali, you remember Malcolm X saying Negro, old Negro, old handkerchief head Negro. They started using the term black. The people who call themselves black and proud and blah, 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 they didn't want to use the term Negro. The term was derogatory. Black was used all the way up into the late 80s. Then they started using African American. So these terms are used, and these terms are given to the indigenous people here to disconnect them from previous generations. So there will not be no continuity between themselves. This is if you just look at history, you can see this. Now, if you go to places, they'll call people like Frederick Douglass, Nat Turner, Sojourner Truth. They'll call those people African Americans. How can they call themselves African Americans when they themselves didn't call themselves African Americans? How can they call themselves African Americans when that term wasn't used? This should be flooding the community, but we don't think like that. We love to play that victim. I didn't know. Nobody's supposed to teach you nothing. You on this planet to learn yourself. It is nobody's job to teach you anything because most of our people don't take time to learn nothing. Right? Be honest. We don't take time to learn anything. We think we know it all because whatever we're told, that's what we believe. That's not how it goes down. And you can see how we're suffering from that. So tonight's topic is going to be get your kids. And like I said before, it's not get your kids, the little youngsters. This could be your grandmama because we stuck in that Jesus stuff. Really, y'all? Still? You still haven't read the first page of the Bible? I mean, the first page. The first page. If you're not asking questions by page 2, something's wrong with you. We don't read it, we just believe. So when we say get your kids, this is what we're saying. So here's an example. Yesterday we get this. So the group African Americans ain't African. Most people get it. Most people get it. They like, what? Sir, ma'am, I don't know you. Go ask your mother, ask your grandmother who her grandmother was. I bet you $1 she say she was an Indian. Everybody parent says that. Everybody parent says that. My grandmama was an Indian. Yeah, if your grandmother was an Indian, how are you African? If all babies come from females, women, how are you an African? If your mama had you, how are you an African? These are the kind of questions that goes right over our head. And then you want to come to me and try to play this victim role. It ain't gonna work. Africans don't even call themselves Africans. And that's where we embarrass ourselves. We look like fools on the world scene. And remember, the words you use, you're not speaking your mother tongue. You speak in English. So when you call yourself black, you don't even ask yourself, well, what's the history of the word black? Where did that word come from? We don't do that. We just take it and try to pretty it up and make it fit us like we do the word nigga. What did your people call themselves? Where did they live? What rivers did they live by? What mountains did they live by? What caves did they live by? What mounds did they live by? The African American doesn't ask themselves these questions. The African Americans do what his master tells him to do, period. Am I lying? I didn't think so. So when we say get your kids, we say this. If you believe the Alice Haley narrative, that some boats bought Negroes over here. Everybody knows a nurse. What do nurses say about people? You live in the bottom of a ship, no fresh air. You can't even light a lantern under there because there's no oxygen. And you have people pissing and shitting, acid, ammonia. How are those people breathing in that? We don't even question that. You have teachers who are teaching your children today. You have these people teaching their children that they're African, and you can't show them no boats. You can't explain how that happened. And if you talk to a nurse, and I'm talking about an intelligent nurse, she'll tell you, impossible. All you got to do is go online and look up at some of the ships crossing the ocean, and these are modern shipping container ships. That ocean is tearing them up. You honestly think a little wooden boat with 500 slaves can cross the Atlantic Ocean? This is what you believe? And by the way, believe is a compound word. Be lie. Be the lie. And that's what the African American does. He can never explain himself. Try it. Try asking him a question. He will do anything to not answer that question. He's just trying to get some clarity. It's like the biblical story. It tells you that the Lord God and Adam created a woman. So when you ask the average Christian, well, who is the Lord? They'll say something dumb like, well, Jesus is the Lord. But Jesus hasn't been introduced into the story yet. What are you talking about? Warlord? Landlord? A lord is someone that everybody hates. Everybody, except, of course, the Negro, except, of course, the African American. He loves the Lord. The Lord is a man who pretends that he is God. This 3 and 4 year olds should know this by now. It tells you right there in the book that you call your Bible. I mean, really, if you read if you read past the first page of the Bible and you steal into it, something's wrong with you. And the more and more you get in it, the dumber it gets. And this is what we believe. You believe people that came and stole your land? How do you think they still have your land in their hands? Because you believe that they gave it to you. Or you believe whatever they tell you. So get your kids. What do we mean by get your kids? We mean get your kids is all you brothers and sisters who are on that, all the brothers and sisters that are on that ideology of you're African American and you're into all this stuff that you're being taught, but you can't explain yourself. Come on now. Makes sense when you're talking to people, because if you're not, you're going to be embarrassed. And don't get mad when you're embarrassed. Take it as a learning lesson. All of you who say you're African, if you're African, go over to African and help your people because they need your help. They taking an ass whooping just like we are. Go help your people. They need help over there. You see how the Africans are fleeing their countries, going to Libya and getting dogged. Where are the African Americans? Where are the African American scholars getting all the people they teach together to go make sure nothing happens to their brothers? You're African, right? They getting dogged out now in Libya. They getting dogged out now in Egypt. And many of you Negroes like to run to Egypt and claim that you're those people, but you won't explain what happened to the Egyptians, what happened to the real Egyptians, what happened to the Egyptians you see all the images of. Why is their land a desert? How did their land get sucked dry like that? How come you guys never explain that? How come these people aren't on the planet to speak for themselves today? Because they were genocided out. That's the same thing that's happening to the African American. What the Egyptians do? The Egyptian soldiers wanted to screw the Greek and Roman women. The Egyptian women wanted to screw the Greek and Roman soldiers. They made half caste people, Semites, semi half. I mean, but this was taught 30 years ago, and we still don't know. Matter of fact, and this is why you're going to have to start being around people who think forward. Because I want to share, I'm going to give you some examples of how we stay stuck. And it's really embarrassing. And it's embarrassing for one simple fact, because of what's happening to you. Brother told me the other day that every day since January 1st, somebody has died. A homicide has been committed in Birmingham, Alabama against you. Every day. And you want to dog out people who trying to reclaim their indigenous status? You want to dog out the brothers and sisters who are giving information? Hey, you got land down here that's untouched. That's yours. But you don't, you think you are African. So while you over there looking and praising and out to Africa, foreigners come over here and take your stuff. We'll take on your great grandparents' name. It's supposed to be yours, but you are African. You want that stuff over there. This is how, that's what I mean when I say the same thing that are happening to the Egyptians are happening here. And the African American not only is dumb, is arrogant in the dumbness. Refuse to think. Really? Your people were slaves? Then how are they on the money? And you've all seen that picture. If you haven't seen the picture, check out Confederate currency, the color of money. You were on the first dollars that was created in this country. That ain't us. So why would they drag people from Africa 5,000 miles across the Atlantic Ocean and then put them on the money? Who does that? In the African American mind, that makes sense. That makes sense. So when we say get your kids, this is what we are saying. If you think you are African, be African. Stop talking. Go over to Africa and all that bullshit you confusing the kids with here. Go over there and give that to them. You know what they'll do to you? You know what they'll do. That's why you won't go. So brother gonna try to tell me, yeah, I'm from Mali. I'm from Mali. Well, speak Somalian. Speak, show us how the Malians speak. He wanted to fight. Why did he want to fight? Because he was just embarrassed. That's how most Negroes do. You say something, then when somebody asks you to explain what you say, you never can explain it. Why can't you explain it? Because you don't think. You ate that out of somebody else's mouth and trying to show us that you intelligent, and you're just making an ass out of yourself. That's what's happening. So when we say get your kids, we're saying this. If you say you are African, I say be an African. I say go over there, but talk to your brothers and sisters first that come over here, because to me it looks like Africans are fleeing their homes. That's one thing I can give us credit for. We don't run off and go to other countries. Why is the world trying to get over here to America? Why is the world, and remember, indigenous people, you are America. America's what's created you. Check out a story, an old Choctaw tale about Nanawea. Tells you all you need to know. Nanawea. Spell it in the computer, it'll come up. Nanawea. These are stories that were passed down to you, but you don't want those because you want to pick up some foreign Allah, Jesus, Buddha, whatever. This is what's happening to us. And it's nobody fault. So anytime you all that, they devils and all that, no. Black men and black women are devils because there's no such thing as black. Everybody get your cell phone and put it up to your skin. If somebody can take a picture and post it in the group that you're the color of your skin, I'll send you $100. Black, black. You keep saying that term and you keep putting a spell on yourself. You keep the spell on yourself. Why? Because this is not your language. You don't even know what the term black means. What does the term black mean? Look it up. Look up the etymology of the word, not the definition. The definition is something that they give you because they train you to be like an animal. They train their children the history of words and how to use it. See, when you say a word, the word doesn't mean the same to them as it means to you. So when you call yourself black, in their mind, it means kill that nigga. You say black and proud, to them, you're saying you're dead. And how we don't know this by now, and remember, all the people that are on TV, all the people in the movie, all the people that you love, they're part of the problem because they're teaching you these terms because they know that you love them. How do you describe yourself? How did your people describe themselves? You don't know. You don't go down to those towns and cities. You don't go to those rivers. You don't go to those mountains. You don't go to those mounds and figure out how the people describe themselves. Many of the towns are still named after those people. Tuscaloosa, Tuskegee, Tallapoosa, Tallahassee, Washita. How don't we know this? How don't we know this? There was a book put out. There was a book published in 1933. Now check this out. So this is when all these people say, "Oh, my kid is the best. My kid's a scholar at George Washington High School." Check this out. There's a masterpiece of literature, and many of you have heard of it, called Miseducation of the Negro. Carter G. Woodson. Excellent book. Excellent. I would suggest that you get it. Book was published in 1933. Is what? That's 85 years. Do you know to this day that book hasn't sold 1 million copies to date? Think about that. And this dude was a professor, and he was giving you a look into his world. The education you get doesn't allow you to do anything. The education you get trained. You get highly educated so you can help other people build their empires on top of the graves of your grandmother and grandfather. Right? Right? Yeah, right. That's what you do. The book Miseducation of the Negro to this date hasn't sold 1 million copies. Our 5 and 6 years old should be knowing this information. But we don't teach them. And then we're mad when something happens, when they get shot in the street. And like Dr. Barbara Sizemore say, we not there. We send them to these schools making sure they learn all this dumb shit. Don't even make sense. And then when they go out and try to apply it and can't use it and get killed for it, we not there for. How many of our children have been killed? I just told you here in Birmingham, every day since the first of the year. Why? Because we're disconnected from the land. We have no purpose. That's what we're thinking. That's what we believe. You see all these homeless people. Why are you homeless on your own land with foreigners coming over here living fat, but you homeless? How is that possible? How is it that these brothers are coming from these wars, disillusioned and homeless? And this just haven't been happening. This has been happening since the Korean War, probably before that. I'm sure before that. So you think you can go help the people who dog you out, kill off other people, kill off other men, women, and children on your land, and there's no repercussions for you? That's how you think it is, and you still send your children to war? And Muhammad Ali told you not to? That's what I like to do. I like to ask brothers, why did you weren't listening? What did you think about Muhammad Ali? And these the Negroes that walk around with the Vietnam caps. We don't, and that's what I mean. We don't think. We're not thinking of that. Since we don't think, other people can come over and do whatever they want. You saw everybody up in rage now about the little girls climbing out of the dog cages. Why are you mad? This is what you train them to be, like animals. And if you look at the girls, they were sharp. They had new shoes on, new clothes, and they in cages. This is how other people see you. Why? Because that's how you see yourself. You call yourself dogs, right? You have brothers who have graduated college who call themselves Q dogs who bark every time a command is right. This is the dumb shit we do. This is the dumb shit we do. And you want to try to make us feel bad, you will get embarrassed. So that's why I say, if you African, be African. You have Africans coming over here every day trying to get what you got, but you talking about you them, and they trying to leave what you go talk that African stuff to them. They'll spit in your face. They know you not them. How don't you know? How don't you know? So we have this cat. This dude's in England, and he posted in the group that we have a pedophile in the group, and everybody knows how Facebook works. I don't know the people in the group. I just have a few of my uh, good friends in there. I don't know everybody who comes in the group, but the group is for people to learn. It's for people to learn. Ask questions. If you come in there asking questions, stupid questions, if you come in there wearing dashi, if you come in a group that says African American ain't African, and you come in there talking that African stuff, it's not going to turn out too well for you. There are signs all over the place. There's information all over the place. All you have to do is look through the group. We have images. We have pictures all throughout the group that proves it. We have another brother in the group, Safa Karo Safa. He goes out and find images of people. He'll find an image of he'll find an image of anybody and go back and look through the archives of the indigenous people and find a person that looks like them. You've seen it. How come you can't do that with Africans? Put up a picture of an African that looks like a sister here. Look at the picture of the sister, the reconciliation between America and Britannia. There's an image out called The Reconciliation Between Britannia and Her Daughter America. Pull that sister up, and she looks like any sister walking down the street. How come we don't know that? This stuff is, see, when you're in a situation like we are, the group is supposed to come together and come up with ways to stave off whatever's happening to them. You all I see is brothers and sisters fighting each other, dogging each other out. Why? Why aren't we giving information to our children? Why aren't we building hospitals for ourselves? Why don't we take the placenta and cord blood that come from our mothers and save that for ourselves for our health? How come we don't do that? How aren't we having children anymore? Remember a few years ago that book came out on the down low? That book came out about what, 25 years ago? Remember? On the down low? Where have we where has that literature taken us? Remember that was 25 years ago. This is the kind of stuff we into, y'all. This is the kind of stuff we're into. Why? Why? Why do we continue to play these games when we see that our children are being dogged out, being put in cages? How come? How come? I mean, that's a simple question. Why don't we look out and why don't we say to ourselves, you know what, our kids can't be. So if you put the African American on the scale of 1 to 10 on the world scale of intelligence, and you put them up against all the country, don't mix them in with the United States because it's obvious you're not part of the United States. Some of us are part of the United States. Some of us are part of the United States. Some of us, we give our lives to the United States, don't we? Don't we? We give our lives to the United States. We make sure we're proud when our children go. When we go, we're proud. We're proud when our children go out to kill other people in war. Gonna have to pay for that. You know that. As sure as you inhale, you gotta exhale. As sure as you wake up, you gotta go to sleep. See, those are the things that teach us. Those are the things, everyday things that we do is supposed to teach us. And we're supposed to learn from that. But we refuse to. And then arrogant about it. Why is that? Why is that? Why is it? We think that we can just keep being dumb. We think that we can keep arguing and fighting. And listen, don't get into a conversation with somebody if you don't know what you're talking about. Because it doesn't matter how mad you get, you're still gonna be wrong. You're still gonna be wrong. Keep keep your eye on your children because we got a lot of predators out there. And it's only so many brothers, it's only so many sisters who are out there looking out for us. See, it's not the whole group. See, if a Negro attacks of one of these foreigners, you better believe the foreigners are coming to their aid. We have all these sisters coming up missing, and brothers are doing it. I'll let the sisters talk about that. So you really you're attracted by a dude that wears his pants down to his thighs and writes all over himself. That's what that's what you're making a kid by. That's what you're training your children to do. You have all these universities. You have all of these colleges. What are they teaching your children to do? To go help a foreigner build his empire on your land. And we're arrogant about it, aren't we? Yeah. Yeah, we are. Get your kids. Get your kids. Your children cannot be thinking 50 years from now how you're thinking today. That won't work. Won't be helpful. What do you think will happen? You have a dude like Trump and has a Russian wife making decisions over the indigenous people's children. Are you serious? But you African. Get your kids, y'all. If you want to be African, be African. Nobody has nothing against you, but don't tell people who have searched their families. Don't have people who mothers and fathers and grandmothers and grandfathers who have told them who they are. Tell what kind of person are you? Hmm? See, my grandmothers and grandfathers told me. But then here you have some idiot talking about they took a DNA test. For real? You'll give your DNA to a complete stranger, the African American will, and cool about it, and will ask you what's wrong with you. You will give your DNA to a complete stranger, but call me crazy. Really? That's the work of the African American. That's how we get out. And like I say, arrogant as hell. So I'm just gonna run it by you again because I don't want nobody saying I didn't know. Nobody told me. Stop lying. You just saying you don't want to listen. You want to do what you want to do, which means, see, if they the thing is to kill you out. Sisters ain't having babies like they used to no more. What? I I, I want somebody to look at the how many abortions we've had since Roe versus Wade. We've lost about 300 million people since then. Now, what you need to do is imagine what would we do if we had 300 million extra people on our side? Now, Lucille, we not supposed to think like that. That's how the African American thinks. Why aren't you producing children anymore? And why aren't you producing children that's worth a damn? Because you're not worth a damn. That's basically what's up. That's what's happening for real. We don't think. Babies think. By the time we get 8, 9, 10 years old, we're done with thinking. My head hurts when I think. Get your kids, y'all. Because if you don't get them, somebody else will. And you saw who that somebody else. You, you saw what's the brother name that the picture that was going around where he was hugging a cop and crying, and his mothers drove him off a cliff. This is what they think of you. Every time you see somebody getting shot, it's you. They got to keep the image of death in your mind so you will always think and project death. I mean, it's this simple. When I taught this in elementary school, no. Get your kids, y'all. Like I say, if you don't get them, somebody else will. Just like they get your great grandmama, your great granddaddy's land that they left for you, but you don't like it where they live because it's too slow. Well, you move to the city and you speed up life and you die fast. I mean, hasn't that, why does somebody need to tell you that? All, all you have to do is pay attention to the other life forms that's on the planet. But when you're in the city, there are no other life forms. When you're in the city, you cut off from nature. You're not around no trees. You're not around no flowing streams. You're not around anything. You're around incandescent lights. You're walking on concrete all day. You're totally cut off from the earth. You're supposed to be walking on the earth. How does the earth recognize you if you're not walking on it? Hmm? That's like a lion that goes into captivity and is domesticated. You put him back out in the wild, the other lions won't even fuck with him. Why? Because he's not of them anymore. And that's what's going on with us now. You're not what your grandmothers were. You're not what your great great grandmothers were. You're not what your grandfathers were. You're not what your great 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 grandfathers were. You are an African American, a clone of what your great 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 grandfather was. Because that's what African American is a clone. The African American child doesn't do what the Negro child does. The Negro child doesn't do what the colored child does. The colored child doesn't do what they call Indian, and that's a misnomer. Anytime somebody names you what they want, you're gonna act out the definition that they give to that name. We don't know that yet. Let me give you an example because I know a lot of people like you don't know what you talking about, nigga. You just talking. There was a remember in 1988 the term African American came out is the exact same year that gangster rap came out. Those of you who remember know when gangster rap came out, that was the it took music to where it is today. So the people who was born in gangster rap, they're cut off from people who like Earth, Wind, and Fire. They cut off from people who like Stevie Wonder. They cut off from people who like Aretha Franklin. I'm not saying all of them, of course, because there are many children who like that music, but this is how they cut you off. What did gangster rap do? What did NWA do to the women? Call them bitches and hoes and had them dancing and singing to it. What does that evolve to now? Be honest. What does that evolve to now? Hmm? Hmm? And you think you're gonna? And, this is another thing that gets me of what the dumb Negro always says. His time is coming. He don't got that much. His time is up. His time isn't up until you make his time up. Well, you think some sky god is gonna come save you, and all you've been doing is worshiping and thanking for everything that you've been getting? Are you out of your mind? Yeah, yeah. This is common sense, y'all. When a baby falls down, a baby gets right back up. He's thinking, how do I stay up? How do I keep moving forward? I see my brothers and sisters out there. I see my brothers and sisters playing out there. I want to get with them. So a baby's thinking. He can't even talk. And he's thinking, how is it that the Negro and will get pissed off if you tell him you should think. You don't tell me what to do. You ain't my daddy, motherfucker. That's the African American. Not non-thinking. I mean, simple stuff. Listen, if you come into the group African Americans ain't Africans, basically what we're saying is if you're not thinking, stay out. Go to Africa and help your folks over there. They need you because you damn sure ain't gonna help us come up with nothing here to help move us forward, right? Right. You know that's exactly how it goes. We see the situation we in. We see all the diseases. Where are all the doctors that's coming up with the cures to keep us alive and healthy? We can't do that because we're in somebody else's hand. Where are all the brothers that are contractors that are building cities and towns that would be safe for our women and children to be in? We don't build them. We don't get the support. Where are the educators that are teaching our people that, hey, you are part of this earth. America birthed you. You are a natural resource like the trees, and people treat you like that. They use your body parts every day. Every day. You say nothing about it. You cool with it. Where are your birthing centers? How come we not delivering our own children? Don't get mad at me. I'm asking the questions. And the intelligent people will come up with answers. Even if it hurt, even if the truth hurts. The 2020 census is coming up. Now we put this out about 3 years ago. Check the census out, y'all. They're trying to eradicate you. Now I know you say they can't kill us out. You got some Negroes out there that say they can. Yeah, they can because they have your replacements now. If you look in the southern cities, people coming up from Mexico is coming to take city jobs, stuff that you used to do. I mean, here's a perfect example. Perfect example. Remember when Martin Luther King was assassinated? This is just an example to show you what's happening. Remember Martin Luther King, why he got assassinated? He went down to Memphis to help the trash workers down there. What percentage of those trash workers do you think are foreigners? These are things we got to know, y'all. These are things we got to know. In many of these cities, especially in the South, especially in New Orleans, Alabama, you have Mexicans coming up cutting the grass now, right? Where are your cities and towns? Where are the cities and towns that you left from? Where are the cities and towns that you left to go to Los Angeles? You left to go to Chicago, New York, Detroit. Where are those towns? How come you didn't go back and reclaim those and build from there and build top of the line schools, top of the line hospitals? You the black man. You the first man on the planet. Why aren't you building anything? Why aren't you letting your children know who they are and what they're supposed to do and what meaning, what purpose in life they have? So I talk to people now that is 30 years old that have, you know, graduated and all that. And you know what they feel like now? They feel miserable because they have nothing. They have why aren't we building cars? I mean, they have South Koreans building the Kia car over here, the Hyundai over here, and got you doing it, but you went over there to help kill them out. You see how they come over here and take over your land and make you slave for them? And remember, y'all, slaves get paid. That's what I mean about we get our definitions twisted and we don't know nothing. Slaves get paid. A slave, the definition of a slave is simply a person who uses his life energy to build somebody else's empire. That's the African American big time. And if you don't use your energy to help somebody else build your empire, the other African Americans will laugh at you and dog you out and tell you to get a job. And when you try to build something, they don't help. They laugh at you. An African American will help a foreigner before he help his own brother out. Am I lying? No. Now many of you will get mad. So, so this is what's happening to us now. This is why I say African Americans ain't Africans. Go to the archives, to the state where your people were from, and look your folks up. Many of you will find out that your people wasn't no joke. How did we get in this position? Get your kids. How do we get in this position? Brothers. Brothers wanted what the foreigners had. Brothers wanted what the colonizers had. You heard of the Buffalo Soldiers. Who were the Buffalo Soldiers? The Buffalo Soldiers were those soldiers that went and killed up the other brothers in other parts of the land. In Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Iowa. That's who the Buffalo Soldiers were. But you praise them, just like you praise the Tuskegee Airmen. Really? That's what I don't get about the Negro. You go help this person kill other people, and then when the karma comes around to bite you in the ass, you whine. Are you crazy? Yeah. What did the Tuskegee Airmen do? We pat him on the back because he went to go fight for boss. For real? Yeah. What did the Buffalo Soldiers do? Help go kill out a lot of brothers. What did the first congressmen, the first people who got in the Senate, the first people who came a part of these government, what did they do? They sold their mothers and sisters to the white boys in Washington, D.C. We got the images, y'all. How you don't know? Because the African American never knows shit. Never knows nothing. I didn't know. And these people be 50, 60, 70 years old and don't know nothing. Why? Why don't they know anything? Because they never took the time to learn. They don't want to know nothing. They know every football team, college. I was listening to some brothers talk one time, and these brothers knew every college football team, the stadium that they played in, the address of the stadium, and how many people the stadium sat. I heard brothers talk about that one day. I was like, you got to be kidding me. But we're proud of that. But you don't know who your grandmama was. Nobody told me. Find out. That's what your job, that's what your mama had you for, to help life be better. And all y'all do is around here is make mamas cry. And one of the worst things you'll ever hear in life, if you've never heard it before, listen to a mother's cry after she found out one of her children got killed. You ever seen that image of that sister in court when the police came in her house and killed her granddaughter in Detroit. Remember that a few years ago? And that, then look it up. I'll post it in the group. That the way that sister cried, they had to shut court down. You know why they had to shut court down? Because that cop, he was about to confess. That sister said the sound of her voice made that cop look, he just had guilt written all over his face. They had to shut the court down. But for some reason, we won't unite as a people and what needs to be done. Listen, y'all, you have the Olympics coming up. I don't know if it's after this one or the next. I don't know when it is. But the last Olympics, all the homeless people, all the undesirables, they got rid of. They threw them away. You have way more homeless people now than you had back then. And it's just not black folks, so-called black folks. You're being eradicated off the planet. Now, we have the mental ability, the spiritual capability, and the physical ability to make sure that don't happen. You got to be on the same page, y'all. Thinking that you're from some faraway place, far, far away in your mind, that's not it. That's not it. Thinking that you sailed over here from the other side of the world, I mean, you're beyond dumb to believe that. Because where's the ships? Hmm? I mean, you would figure how Europeans are. They like to show how they dogged you out. That's why all the fuss about all these statues and stuff, the Confederate flags, all these people who came down and dogged the indigenous people out. That's why the people are complaining about get those statues down out of these parks. You worship them. You call them daddy. Ain't that what your athletes say? The coach is like a daddy to me. You have foreign coaches coming over here, pimping your sons, making millions, and you don't get a dime. Down in Alabama, they used to play a sport called chunky. Look it up. A sport called chunky. And they were the best in the world at it. So that's why you see places like Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, they have good football players because that's what they did. And then they get these foreign coaches coming over here to pimp you, slap the shit out of you, kick you, dog you out, and you call him daddy for some money. That's going to be another problem we have. You'll do anything for money. I mean, I like the new name. They call it fiat. So get your kids. If you are African, please. Africa needs her children, just like America needs her children. If you're African, go and help your folks. They need you. Good luck. But the people over here that's finding out, and this is the cold part about it, y'all. We have some people out teaching the youth because we got to do it, in real time. We have sisters and brothers out there teaching the youth. They'll go to these youth centers, these gyms, the park, whatever, and just call and let these kids know. And when the kids learn this is their home, they vibrate at a whole nother frequency. A whole nother frequency. The ones who don't know, you've been seeing that. You've been seeing what's happening. Anybody, imagine me coming to your home telling you to put your hands up and get out of your car. You would slap the shit out of me. But let a foreigner do it, you do it. You up on it. What's the cat who was raping the sisters in Oklahoma? The little Chinese dude. And I say Chinese dude because you are what your mother is. Your mother is the one that had you. Your mother's blood is running through your vein. You are what your mother is. Guess who's the only people who brothers tell me this? Men carry the seeds. I thought you fertilized them. This is what brothers say. This is what brothers say. Brothers say that men carry the seeds. This is how dumb we are. A mother's eggs is passed down from her mother, which is passed down from her mother, which is passed down from her mother, which is passed down from her mother. And the men, we fertilize the seeds. The baby grows and the baby shares. The mother has two hearts beating in her, has two brains growing inside of her. And the man and women, as many of you guys fought for believing this dumb shit. The mother, what's that? Mother's baby, father's maybe. The mother, you are what your mother is. The father can be off in war. The father can get killed. The economic conditions can be such that the mother could be a prostitute and nobody knows who the father is. But the baby is still born. The baby comes out of the mother, but you think that you can, are you crazy? Yeah. And the guys who think like that, women love them. Women love them. The dumber they are, most women love them type dudes. Tell me I'm lying. So this is what brother's saying. Brother's saying that they carry the seeds, and no, brother, you just help fertilize the seed. You can't make a baby by yourself. You have to fertilize those eggs that are inside of the mother. I mean, damn, is it that hard? And this is where our ego comes into play. This is where we be lying and bullshitting, and that stuff is passed down to our children, and we keep on doing it. You seen the video where where the old man is asking a 15-year-old girl to come to his house. Luckily, it was a brother in there checking his ass. Really? You're with a 15-year-old girl? Aren't you supposed to be building something for her? Aren't you supposed to be making sure she's safe? No, that's not what we do. We we are their harm. So I'm gonna go ahead and close it out now. I just wanted to say, look, get your kids. Look, man, we ain't got time to play. We ain't got time to argue and fuss and bicker. When we say African Americans ain't African, the average person can back that up. But for you to come in and say, we are African, we don't, how are you going to tell somebody who they are and you don't know who you are? How are you going to tell somebody who they are? Do Africans come over here to America and buddy up with you? No. Do Africans come over here and build businesses with you? No. Do Africans come over here and want to be educated with you? No. They go deal with the people who let them come over here. And how is it that other people are letting other people in your land? How is it that other people are telling people from the Americas they need a passport or whatever to get here? And you have no say so. But you the black man. You a fool. And brothers, we really looking bad. We really looking bad. So My only words is this, because I have a little voice. Unfortunately, we listen to other people before we listen to each other. And this is what I mean by African Americans ain't African. Just like you have deer, the North American deer were created by nature in America. Just like you have the uh, eagle that was created by America. Because see, nature creates everything. We act like that's some far off bullshit story that don't make no sense. The land creates the people that it needs, but you don't even claim it. You claim other people's land and they hate you. Oh, they hate stand you for it. And this is where we are. This is where the African American is. So when we say African American ain't African, we can prove it. What we ask you to do, if you say you are African, prove it. Don't get mad if we ask you a question and you can't answer it and then you get mad at us. No. If you are African, where you in Africa you from? Negroes don't know. So they give you a DNA test. And like I said earlier, what idiot gives this DNA to a stranger? You see those people who be on them shows where you are not the father? Those are the type people that do it. Dumbasses. Is this where we want our children to be? Is this how we want our children to act? Is this what we want our children growing up believing? Obviously we do. So listen, African Americans ain't African. Check your family, search where you come out of. You'd be surprised at what you find. You guys have a good night. I'm gonna see you next time. Peace out, y'all.